Welcome back to Harriet's Florida Kitchen. I'm Harriet. This is my kitchen. We're in Florida, and it's winter. And in Florida, it does get cold. It gets into the 40s or 30s even. And it's been cold today. It was cold. It's been cold the last few weeks. So we went to a friend's house, our friend Liz in Sellers, and she made a chicken pot pie. Now, I've not had a chicken pot pie or made a chicken pot pie since I whipped one out of the freezer, one of Mrs. Swanson's or something, to make for my children years and years ago. This is unbelievable, and it is super easy. Liz got the recipe from her friend Natalie years ago, and she kind of pulled it out of her recipe box not long ago. So she tweaked it a little bit, and I've tweaked it a little bit, and I'm going to do it in real time. I bet it'll take me 15 minutes. First thing is you've got to chop up the chicken. You either cook your chicken, and I like dark meat, as you know, but in this case I'm going to do a whole chicken, but you can do a bunch of chicken thighs, and you just boil them or you bake them, whatever you want to do, not for very long, and you bread them out and you chop them up, and what you're going to need is 3 cups of chicken at the end of the day, 3 cups of diced chicken. So I'm going to start with a rotisserie chicken that I just bought at Publix, and it looks super tender. It doesn't look like it's been there very long, which gets a little bit dry. That's not so great. And I'm going to show you start to finish how we do this. But one of the key ingredients besides the chicken is Bisquick. You're not going to be able to find Bisquick very easily outside of the United States, but it's an amazing product, and it is this speedy thing where you sort of add 1 or 2 ingredients and you end up with pancakes or southern biscuits or waffles, or in this case, the top of chicken pot pie. So it's basically, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, but I'm going to mix up the Bisquick in milk, make all the rest of the stuff, spread that on top, pour that on top, and stick it in the oven. It'll cook for an hour. So I'm going to tell you, I'll bet you the prep time is going to be something like 15 minutes after I get the chicken cut up. Then you've got the hour in the oven, and buddy, you are done. And I'll show you what you can do, but you can freeze it. You can have it straight out of your own kitchen that you've just been baking in. Couldn't be easier, couldn't be more wonderful, couldn't be great, but couldn't be better to have standing by. I know I said start with the chicken, but really I like to start with the Bisquick and the milk. And I think it's a great idea to sort of get it whipped up right at the beginning and then let it sit, because it'll sort of begin to rise a little. I don't know if it's supposed to really rise, but it makes it just a little bit fluffier and a little bit nicer, I think, than waiting to the end to kind of put it together. So you whip up the Bisquick, 1.5 cups of Bisquick, 1.5 cups of milk, and then you just set that aside. Now I am starting on the chicken. As you can see, just a plain old rotisserie chicken, and I'm going to chop it up and probably use mostly the dark meat, save the white meat for sandwiches or something else. But anyway, I'm going to end up with 3 cups of it. So I will show you as I go. Now you can see that I'm just really pulling this apart with my bare hands. This does not really have to be, it doesn't have to be beautiful, and your carving doesn't have to be wonderful. Nobody else is going to see it but you. You're just trying to get it sort of cut up as conveniently as possible, so that you can chop it up into smaller pieces to put into the chicken pot pie. So this is definitely not a tutorial in how to properly carve a chicken, and it isn't even a great tutorial in how to safely cut it up. I'm just ripping the skin off, ripping it off of the bones. This is definitely not the way to chop something up. In fact, I'm breaking the very first safety rule of cutting up with a knife. You'll notice that my fingers are a little bit exposed. I mean, they're sort of sticking out there. You're supposed to curve your fingers sort of almost into a ball, so that your knife only would hit your knuckle and not the ends of your fingers. I do it a little bit, but not at all consistently, and it's very, very, very bad. Please do not do this at home. You should curl your fingers up and not leave them out there sort of for the end of the knife to chop them up. Plus, it's not very tasty to have finger in your chicken. It's kind of disgusting. So I'm doing this, and I'm cutting it all up, putting it into, measuring it out into a cup, putting it into the bowl, and you'll see me do 2 cups of it, and you don't necessarily see me do the 3rd cup, but you do want to end up with 3 cups of chicken, and in this case it ended up that I just really used the whole chicken. It was just easier.
because a whole chicken, a kind of normal sized chicken, really is about 3 cups of meat. So that's fine. You can do that. It can be a little bit more than the 3 cups. This whole recipe came to me as a handful of peas, a handful of onions, 2 handfuls of chicken. So I've made measurements. So if you use a whole chicken instead of 3 exact cups, or the 3 overflowing cups, that's okay.
Okay, here's where it gets really easy. So it calls for 2 cups of peas. My husband has asked for a few more than a couple of cups, so I'm putting in 2 cups of peas. And it calls for 2 cups of pearl onions, putting in the pearl onions. As you know, it called for 3 cups of chicken. I actually just used an entire chicken and sort of scrunched it in. It roughly is 3 cups, but I would say 3 overflowing cups. And now I'm going to take my melted butter, 1 stick of melted butter, which is the same as 4 ounces of melted butter, which is I think about 112 grams of melted butter. And I am going to move this over here, and I'm going to, this is the one thing you sort of, I think you probably should cook just a few minutes. I'm going to put a little bit of the melted butter. I'm doing 2 cups of celery, and I'm doing 2 cups of carrots, and I'm going to saute them just for a few minutes, and then they're going to be ready to put in the bowl too, unless we're getting towards the end. Okay.
I'm going to saute just the fresh celery and frozen carrots. How lazy is that? Frozen carrots. 2 cups of each. I just saute them for a minute or two, just until they're slightly softer than raw, and then I'm going to put them in with the rest of the things in the bowl.
Okay, now to assemble all of this. Now all of those vegetables were frozen. I did not defrost the pearl onions. I did not defrost the peas. Just made sure that they weren't all sort of sticking together. I did not defrost the carrots before I put them in this pan. I got the celery just straight from the grocery store, out of the already, the chopped up department in the grocery store. Not the chopped up department, the vegetable department, where you can find chopped up vegetables. Okay, I have a 1.5 cups of chicken broth. This is plain old Swanson's. Actually, it's not plain old Swanson's. Swanson's is the best you can use, in my opinion. Here goes my melted stick of butter. And finally, cream of celery soup. Now for the fun part, the stirring up part. Okay. This, all you do is, with all those vegetables, you simply stir it up. Frozen, fresh, chicken, butter, all of it just gets put all together. And you stir it really, really well. You do not want some of it on the bottom. And then we're ready to put it into the containers, to put it into the oven. Well, after I made such a dog's dinner out of distributing the chicken pot pie into the various vessels, I realized that I had overstacked them so badly. You're supposed to be able to put this in a 9 by 13 dish, 9 inches by 13, and it's perfect. Of course, it'll work fabulously. But if you don't want to do it for a big group of people right away, which I don't, you can divvy it up another way. So what I've done is I have it in a sort of a small dish. I don't know the size of this, but I can measure it before I put it out online, so you see the recipe. And I put it in 6 of the mini cocotte, or small casserole dishes. But I realized I could fit it onto a 7th one. So I, off camera, dipped out enough from each of them, and then I cleaned them up so they would look a little tidier and a little cuter. And now I am getting ready to put the larger one into the oven to have for dinner tonight. And the others I'm going to freeze. And I have experimented with this. I know that this works. And the weird thing is, so you cook them, you cook the stuff you've just cooked, mixed together, not frozen or anything, for an hour at 350. But I experimented. You can freeze the other ones just as they are. And when you're ready to eat, 1 or 2 or 3 or however many, you can pull them out and frozen straight from the freezer, put them in the oven, 350, preheated, and cook those for an hour. And they'll work out beautifully. So frozen or unfrozen, don't defrost it first. You don't need to. And it'll work beautifully. Now, I'm going to show you how, I'm not sure which one I'm going to show you, but I'll definitely show you when it's finished. And you can see how delicious it is to eat. It is a great recipe, and you will like it very, very much. And it is extremely cozy, maybe to eat in front of the fire on a snowy day, which you can see we don't have here in Florida. Okay, into the oven they go, 350. Okay, this is what this one looked like coming out of the oven. Pretty good. It's going to be delicious. Next scene you see will be me eating it. I just wanted you to see how beautiful this was. It's pretty perfect. Bubbling along. Okay. As I mentioned, you can either put this in straight out of making it and put it right into the oven, which I did the other day, and you've seen, I just showed you a picture of what that looked like coming out. Looks fine. And now here go to frozen ones. Put those right in after I put the Bisquick mix on it, and I'm putting them in again. 350, 1 hour, same amount of time, whether it's freshly made or whether it's been in the freezer. I don't know why that works, but it does. Works for the 9 by 13. It works for these mini cocottes. Okay, I'll be back and show you what they look like. Okay, got them out of the oven. I can lift them up now. They're cool enough to do. And they look pretty wonderful. Now this one is very brown and bubbly. This one, not so much, but a little bit. I mean, pretty brown and bubbly. But one of them I left in an extra 10 minutes. So if they aren't quite ready yet after an hour, take out the ones that are and leave in the ones that aren't. And it'll just be a few more minutes. So I'm gonna now have a little bite because it's done. It's time. Oh my gosh. And it looks unbelievable. So I can get this a little bit closer. It looks unbelievable. Okay, now let's see. It's just as good. I know I must look the same for every single video. This is just super. It's so hot and steamy and crunchy on the top, loads of vegetables on the inside. It's so easy. You noticed it didn't have an inside crust, a bottom crust. That means it's not super doughy. It tastes great. So I recommend that you make it too. And as a matter of fact, we have quite a blowy day today. It's probably blowing about 15 miles an hour. So it sounds very wintry, even though it isn't super freezing cold. Anyway, have a lovely winter day yourself, eating this delicious chicken pot pie. Thank you for watching Harriet's Florida Kitchen. Bye.